When I signed up for the meditation retreat at the Buddhist monastery in Thailand, I had no idea of the nightmare that lay ahead. I had been backpacking alone through Asia for a few months by then, and it was a hard trip. There were a lot of intense challenges, but I would just force myself to keep going no matter what, and I would beat myself up for not handling things perfectly or for feeling scared. I've always been a hypercritical perfectionist, and I just tend to be really hard on myself, and this trip was no exception. So towards the end of the trip, I heard about this monastery in Thailand that offered 10-day silent meditation retreats for Westerners. And I thought, wow, this would be a great chance for me to prove myself as a meditator and to whip my mind into shape before going back home. I was really excited, but the retreat was really hard. Like, there was no distractions allowed, no reading, no writing, no phones, and no talking for 10 days. And I'm Jewish. We like to talk. It was also not exactly cushy. Like, the bed consisted of a slab of cement for your sleeping bag. And just for the record, there is no way to get comfortable on cement if you have bones. It was about as cozy as snuggling with a flat screen TV. So I just wasn't able to sleep, and my back was always hurting. The upside was, it was pretty easy to get out of that bed every morning at 4 a.m. for morning meditation. So every day, the monks with shaved heads and yellow robes would teach us mindfulness meditation techniques, like how to work with our breath and how to observe our thoughts and feelings. And we spent hours every day doing sitting and walking meditations. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get it. Like, I just could never calm my racing mind. I'd be sitting there lost in some elaborate fantasy about reuniting with my boyfriend back home, or just get totally fixated on the stabbing pains in my back, or just become obsessed with remembering all the words to the Gilligan's Island theme song. And then I would berate myself, and I would just say, you know, just observe your thoughts like passing clouds. What the hell is wrong with you? That approach didn't seem to help. It just kind of provoked the sharp sting of shame that was so familiar for me. What made it even harder was that I couldn't talk to anyone about what was going on for me. I felt totally isolated, and by the 7th day, I was on the verge of losing it. That evening, I was in my room, and I saw something on the wall above the head of my bed that it made my heart stop. It was an enormous, shiny black scorpion. Yeah, scorpion. It was huge. I mean, it must have been 4 feet long, give or take. It had 8 legs and 2 giant pincer claws and a long, curved, segmented tail that ended in a very sharp stinger. It looked like some deranged scientist had crossed a spider, a wasp, and a lobster. It was terrifying. And I looked at it, and just my mouth went dry, my heart was pounding. My first instinct was, I've got to kill it. Then I remembered we had taken these Buddhist vows to not harm anything, so that option was out. But I couldn't just leave it there to crawl on me and sting me while I slept. I was pretty sure the scorpion hadn't taken any vows to do no harm. I remembered at the orientation, someone had asked, what do you do if you're stung by a scorpion during the retreat? And one of the monks had said, the pain will be excruciating, but not fatal. Just breathe through it. I was barely hanging on at this retreat as it was. There was no way I could handle, on top of everything else, an experience of mindful torture. I had to get it out of my room. So I came up with a plan. I would need to wrangle it into a cup and then take it out. So I found a cup, but then as I walked up closer to the wall where it was sitting, waving its claws, terrifying, I realized, wow, I know nothing about scorpion behavior. Like, I didn't know, could it jump? Could it fly? Could it shoot toxic darts out of its butt? I didn't know. So I stepped back and then I just like froze there, paralyzed. I didn't know what to do for a long time. Until finally it hit me, like there wasn't anyone to help me. I was on my own and I didn't have a choice. I had to get rid of it. So finally I decided to try a mindfulness technique, even though these things had eluded me during sitting, but I was desperate. So I took a few deep breaths and then observed the sensations in my body like passing clouds. Paid attention to the tightness and the constrictions and everything that was going on. And after a few minutes, it was amazing. There was a spaciousness that opened up and I felt more relaxed and unfrozen enough to go over to the wall and get that scorpion into the cup and cover it with a piece of paper. I was so proud of myself. I was Xena, warrior princess, mindful wrangler of scorpions. I took the cup out of the room and walked with it down the corridor of the quiet dormitory. Everyone was silent in their cells and the vibe was very peaceful and sacred and still. And then I felt a strange tickle. I looked down and the scorpion had crawled out of the cup and was on my hand. It was on my hand. I threw everything down on the ground and I screamed at full volume the first word out of my mouth in 7 days. That F-bomb exploded and reverberated through the quiet monastery. Doors flew open, heads poked out. I was utterly mortified. But I played it cool and I made motions like everything was okay, even though I was dying inside. And I looked down at my scorpion, who was crawling on the ground, looking kind of confused and maybe a little traumatized from the fall. And for the first time, I felt a little sorry for the little guy. And I realized in that moment that if he did sting me, it would just be out of fear and trying to protect himself. I did some more deep breathing and I managed to get him back in the cup and covered it with paper, tighter this time. And I continued on to my destination, this place I had heard about at the orientation but had hoped I would never have to see. The Scorpion Bucket. This was the place where all the compassionately not killed scorpions would be held until they would later be released in the wild. I found it in a storage room I hadn't seen before. It was a large white plastic pail with a lid on it and a helpful label that said scorpions. I went up to it, but I was too scared to open the lid and deal with whatever horror show was inside. So I just stood there, frozen with fear again, and said to myself, Donna, you are such a wuss. What is wrong with you? Just then, a young, friendly-looking Thai monk came into the room, and he saw me by the bucket, and I kind of motioned with my cup, and he got what was going on, and he came over and carefully opened the lid. Inside, there was about 20 scorpions. It was really creepy, but also from a safe distance, kind of cool, them just doing their scorpion thing, and I was glad for them that they would be freed later, hopefully very far away. So the monk took my cup and gently deposited my scorpion into the bucket with the rest and closed the lid. We smiled at each other and kind of laughed a little, and it was actually the first human connection, real human connection that I had had since the retreat started in over a week, and it felt as warm and loving as a long hug. I could feel the compassion coming from the monk's eyes, and I allowed myself to fully take it in. And as I did, I felt something hard and tight in my chest relax. The monk waved and left the room, and I took one last look at the scorpion bucket, and as I did, I saw on a shelf nearby a pile of sleeping cushions. This was the crucial missing component for my cement bed. I was so happy. I took one, okay, maybe two, back to my room and laid them on my slab. Who would have guessed that I would find the gift of comfort from a scorpion?